Welcome back. This week we've got a precision catapult. We've added hardware. We're using 5mm bearings and dowel pins. We're using steel compression springs for the power plant and the trigger return spring. We're going to offer this one exclusively on makerworld, so you can get the files there, and there'll be a bill of materials so that you can buy all the parts from either Maker Supply, or they'll all be available on Amazon too. So we're going to go through the design, how to set up the build plate, and we'll do assembly at the end. And we're going to use our V3 press to help install in the bearings. You're going to need some way to press them in. That press is a great way to do it. There's a link in the description if you missed that one. You can print it out. That'll really help with this assembly. Let's take a look at how this thing works. We've got up to 5 compression springs in here. These two pieces slide relative to one another, so that when we cock the arm back, we compress the springs. So they get squeezed in here. When we move the trigger backwards, this will fire, and the springs will straighten out until we hit this. And this spring is to stop it and actually launch, but also to keep from breaking this thing in half. If we made something very solid here that didn't flex, this arm would eventually break. The trigger has a spring in here that works between these two posts, and it rotates forward until it makes contact here. So that puts the hook in the right position so that when we bring the arm back, we make contact on these surfaces, that this comes down and forces this guy backwards. And they just do this till we get to here, right there. And this can come all the way back and the trigger will click in. And now the springs are trying to push this thing forward, but it can't disengage the trigger. So when you push down here and rotate this backwards, we release it, and then this guy goes flying forward, hits here, and your ball launches. On the inside, we have our interference fits, and then our pins are a little shorter than the holes, but they just are held in there, and they're a tiny interference with the sides, which helps hold them in place. And we just sandwich this spring in there. It goes down in a hole in one side, and then it's covered. And that's what holds the whole thing together. So next we'll take a look at build plate setup, and then we'll do assembly. Here's the build plate setup. We've got 2 different sides. We want to face the posts up, and we want to see the sockets on this side facing up too. So just put the outsides down. These 2 pieces that contain the springs, we want to face them like this. We've got these little points in the holes so that they will print in this direction. If we just make it a round hole, it will fill in part of it and then your pin won't fit. The spring prints on its side, trigger 2. We're going to put the bucket on its side like this, and the arm we're going to put on its side, face the holes for the bearings straight up. And that's about it. There aren't very many parts to this one. So orient it like this. We printed in PLA with 0.12 layers, just 2 walls and 15% infill. None of this needs to be particularly strong. We're using the steel springs for strength in this guy. So really we just need precision on this and we'll be good. So we'll take a look at assembly next. Here are all of our printed parts and our Maker Supply parts. We've got pins, bearings, and springs. The rest is printed in PLA. We're going to have to press these bearings in, and to do that we're going to use our V3 press. There's a link in the description if you haven't printed this yet. You can push them in any way you want, but this thing really helps. So to get started, we're going to take, these are 5x35mm pins. We're just going to put them in these holes and push them all the way down to the bottom. Then we've got to push 4 bearings into this part. So 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and we're going to push them down flush with the surface. So we'll go over to the press. If you just kind of drop them in like this, the surface will square it, and then push till it stops, and it'll be flush. So we're going to do 2 on each side. last one. Okay, so now we've got double bearings that are in line, and we need to put our bucket on. So we want this side that you're going to put your projectile in to be the opposite side of the hook. So it should look like this. We're just going to line it up, force them together, and center it. And now our arm's together. And we can drop this set of bearings in the front right over this pin. And it should rotate nice and freely. And now that part's done. We got to put 2 more bearings in this guy. These tend to go in pretty easily, but we're going to use the press again. So there's one. So last things last, we're going to line this post up and this post up with the corresponding sockets, and then there's holes for all of the pins. So we're just dropping it over, give it a squeeze, and now we're together. So everything should rotate freely, and the last thing we need to do is put this spring on. So there are 2 posts in here, and we just install it over the bottom one, squish it down flat, and kind of let it go onto the other one. So when we press the button, the spring returns it. And now, when this hook is pulled back, it's going to move the trigger out of the way. And that's how it's loaded. And then when we press down back here, that's what fires it. So now we can go chuck some stuff.